Hey everybody, we're live now for our weekly Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time question and answer session. I'm opening up a little bit early today. Want to make sure we get the bugs out of our YouTube stream here. I am technologically challenged, except for the things I do. I mean, I do a lot of stuff on the computer, but you throw something new at me like a YouTube stream. I mean, I'm 69 years old, you can imagine what it's like for people who work with me to try to tell me the same thing 6 times. So I'm hoping that we have some questions here early. I don't see anybody in the chat box right now. You can send me your questions. So if you have any questions, you can start now. Maybe everybody's still doing whatever else they're doing aerobics or whatever they do, playing solitaire or something, wait until 4 o'clock comes. But if anyone has a question, here we got Kira. Kira, can I heal my gut problems with yogurt? Well, that's a good question. It's one of my favorite subjects, Kira. Thank you for asking. No. Yogurt was designed, along with the other fermented foods, by nature to maintain gut health, not to repair it. Plus, there's only a certain amount of strains. You see the Greek yogurts and things like that. They've only got a few strains of bacteria in there. And back in the day, way back when, and before, in the 19th century and further back, there was no such thing as antibiotics. Our ancestors used penicillin, and one of the main sources, I guess, with penicillin was mold on bread. And when they ate a lot of, they didn't have refrigeration. They ate a lot of moldy bread. It was normal, so they were getting daily dosages of penicillin every day. Whenever they ate the bread, my grandmother used to go to the store and request the old bread, and then they never charged her for it. She wasn't cheap. She just wanted what she grew up on. And what happens is that the penicillin will kill off germs. That'll kill off like a simplistic antibiotic, but it only kills off a small spectrum. Only 2 or 3 strains. It just so happened that the fermented foods they eat, like yogurt, replace those exact strains, which is a pretty amazing cycle when you think about it with nature, is that the thing that kills off the germs kills off a little bit of your good bacteria, and your food that you eat every day replace it. And so now comes along, that's a nifty little cycle, right? Now comes along this meteorite, this atom bomb goes off called antibiotics, especially synthetic ones. And they wipe out large columns of strains of bacteria that were never at risk before. And then we have to replace those. And yogurt and, things like, I never knew until I met it. I mean, I know an Italian guy I met who has his own authentic Italian restaurant in Cambridge, Mass. And he was showing me how he makes these olives and pickles. And they were based on an old recipe from Italy and his family, and they were fermenting olives. And he knew a little bit about the bacteria because he put that in there, but he didn't realize that there was a medicinal food. So when you take an atom bomb in your body, like Cipro, flagell, okay, you're taking a large line of strains of bacteria, and then you're going to try to eat a cup of yogurt every day to put it back in. I mean, it's like trying to put a fire out with a squirt gun. It just isn't going to work. And then you're going to say, when someone tells me, well, I eat a lot of yogurt, I want to say, so what? I guess I do probably, but in a gentle way. They need to be told that things like kombucha has some properties, but it's not going to change anything that's been devastated by an antibiotic or kombucha. What that does is helps balance out mainly the pH level, and it discourages germs from living. They're not able to live in a proper pH balance. That's one of the things that the proper strains of bacteria create a pH level, acid alkaline, that the bacteria can't live in. It's like soil. I modeled a lot. I haven't talked much about it. I modeled a lot of what I know, what I do, based on the way soil works. I watched farmers with their soil, and how they cultivated, and the whole thing was amazing. That we did an experiment on my radio show with just when the internet began. We thought it was a big deal that we were able to do a simulcast, and we had 2 tomato plants, and one was soil that I planted with, conditioned the soil with the probiotics, SBOs, trace minerals, and stuff the soil used to have. And then we just took soil from someone's garden that was not conditioned in any way, and we took a bunch of beetles and things that were on some tomato plants that we grabbed them, and we put them on the healthy plant, and they stayed there. And then morning, we came back in the morning, we'd put it on camera. There was no beetles on the unhealthy plant, or the other way around, I should say. They jumped on the unhealthy plant because nature seeks to break down things that aren't making it. If it's not sturdy, it's not going to evolve, even as a plant. And so we would take the beetles off of the unhealthy one, put them on the healthy one, come back in the morning, they'd all be on the unhealthy one. Even during the show, they'd be jumping off. And so that's when I had known about soil, and I saw a direct example of it right live before my eyes. But it's about pH. If you can have a garden with very few weeds if the pH is perfect. And nowadays, you really have to cultivate that stuff. The closest to that is that microbiome stuff. I think I got the name right this time. That's nutrients that come from ancient soil. They had drilled down, and they get the nutrients. And something like that actually is a probiotic activator. Dr. Bish talks about, hey, why are you taking the same strains of bacteria over and over and over? It's like taking the same photograph every time. He says, just have some bacteria in you and take the microbiome, as he calls it now, and it's going to activate them. It's going to make them come more alive and be more potent. So just to finish off on the subject about the mold and the yogurt and stuff, if you have a healthy soil, okay, our ancestors didn't steam these things, and they ate a lot of stuff raw with dirt on it, and it had the bacteria, soil-based organisms in there. And I don't think they mind eating a snail worm or anything like that once in a while. So to tie into the soil and the gut, what we do with the strains of bacteria we use in the Moss Nutrition Probiotic Select, those are the right strains in the right proportion. That's something you have to get to understand. A probiotic, you just go out in the store, GNC, and grab a probiotic. The people who manufacture those things don't really know what they're doing. You don't just take any random strains and say, let's throw some strains in here. No, they have to mimic how they occur in nature. It's like I talked about recently, calcium and magnesium. Okay, you need to have twice as much magnesium than calcium. In nature, where there's magnesium, calcium, it's always a 2-to-1 ratio. But these companies make it the opposite. It's not going to work. You need twice as much magnesium to liquefy the calcium so it goes into the bones and becomes part of the bone. Otherwise, it becomes part of kidney stones or gallstones, and it can settle into the joints. But the biggest thing that happens when you don't process your calcium, it lines the arteries like tile. So just to finish off on that, we need to take the right strains of bacteria in the right proportion, so much of this one, so much of that one, and ones that are indigenous to the GI tract, and mimic what's in breast milk. It's not a coincidence that nature provides colostrum as the soil and the probiotic as the seed, because it is a plant, and it forms perfect soil, perfect plants when a child is nourished. When you mess with that, by in the 1950s, it might have been even earlier, they started selling these farmers on the idea that, oh, you don't need to compost and all that. Use the, what they call them, soil conditioners or something. They tricked them and sold them, and then it ruined the soil in these farms. Then they started selling them other products like they do with antibiotics. You take an antibiotic, you go to CVS every 15 minutes. So anyways, Kara, the answer is you can't do it because it doesn't have enough strains of bacteria. So what else do we have here? We have Madman 4. If someone is unfortunately facing surgery, what advice can you give? I recall how you have helped me in my situation. Well, the best thing to do is to stock up on your probiotic and your colostrum, and you'll double up the dosages, which leads into I'll read in a minute, but it leads into a question we had from somebody who sent it in during the week about something similar. You basically double up the amount of probiotic and colostrum you take, and you load up on some stuff like vitamin C, so the cells, you don't hear me talk about it that much because it's not really so much relevant to gastrointestinal problems, and even can be the opposite of what we want if it's acidic, like ascorbic acid. But you take vitamin C, load up on it, and you try to think of what else I would recommend for that. I used to talk about that quite a bit. It's probiotic and colostrum and vitamin C, and you got to watch out. Just a tip, maybe a lot of you taking turmeric. Turmeric is a blood thinner, and we use it. Many people use it as a anti-inflammatory. I don't see it ever working really, but it's very popular. Company's done a great job of selling it to the public. All over the internet. It's not a real good anti-inflammatory. I guess theoretically it is. And that and some other diuretics like ginger, green tea. There's others. Fish oil. You don't want to take them before surgery because they're thin blood thinners. We want what they do in general, but you don't want it to take it. And they warn you. They always say there's certain things they're pretty hip to now. Say, well, don't take these, and because you'll bleed. Bleed out. And when someone takes, I had a couple of people today. I can think of one guy. He was really going for the fish oil. I said, well, he said, you told me to take fish oil. I said, well, I told you, read it somewhere. I said, I didn't apply it to you individually, which gets into another subject of what's on the labels. I said, but you need the fatty acids, which is another thing you can take prior and post surgery, but not prior, but post surgery if you wait like about a week. That helps heal faster. He said, well, doesn't the skin, fat, and muscle of the bowel wall, isn't the skin made out of fatty acids? I said, yeah, but if you take it while you're bleeding, when you first come to see me, it's going to thin the blood, which an old guy like me, hey, thin my blood, get rid of that cholesterol. But if you already have a leak, you're going to see more blood. So he says, that's why I started seeing blood in my underwear as soon as I started taking it. He says, I thought it was a hemorrhoid or something. I said, well, if you have a hemorrhoid that's bleeding, you thin that blood, it's going to leak out. A comment that I started to touch on, maybe I'll finish up with Madman here if I have something else to add to it. Things you don't take, things you do take, it's mainly vitamin C. Vitamin E is a fatty acid that can benefit, that does not have very, very little diuretic property. But it's loading up the probiotic and colostrum. And the vitamin C, now another thing about vitamin C, everybody that I talk to, all my patients, when they tell me they're taking one thing or another, they're not usually taking nearly enough. They'll tell me they're taking 500 milligrams of vitamin C, and I'll say, well, I guess that's all right as a minimal maintenance. You need more like 2,000, 3,000 milligrams a day, and you don't want to take it in the form of ascorbic acid. If you have an inflammatory bowel condition, because the acid, it's like citric acid. You see citric acid and like calcium. Well, it's going to be counterproductive because it's acid. So what I was going to say is, if you're working with me, you don't take what's on the label. It says take one. You wait till I tell you what to take, because when they manufacture it and put it out on the market, they don't know who's going to buy that. There's a million people could buy that. Of course, there'll be more, and each one will have a different need. So they're forced. They're told they have to put something on the label, but they know it's not accurate because it's not really targeted to anybody. Which somebody asked me several days ago about milligrams. I don't talk about milligrams much because nature doesn't talk about that much. So what you want to know is that I break it down in as simplistic terms that don't seem very practical to most people, but it really is that if you give me, we're talking about slippery elm, and the guy was telling me that he had slippery elm and it was so many milligrams per tablespoon. I said, Right. I said, I don't care about, it's 5 or 5,000. What we do is we put it in our body. We take whatever we have. Hey, I got calcium, it's 300 milligrams. I don't care how many milligrams it is, or maybe something more practical like any other thing that will get more clear results, like Saccharomyces boulardii. That's a classic example. I'll say, well, I don't care how many milligrams it is. Take some and see what happens over the next 24 hours. And then if you still have diarrhea, take more. Okay, it doesn't matter what the numbers are on the bottle. We get hung up on that. Where'd that come from? That came from the pharmaceutical industry. Pharmaceutical industry started measuring things because they have to, because it's dangerous. I haven't seen any celery stalks or cantaloupes with milligrams on there for how much vitamin C or whatever they might contain, because it's not necessary. You can take all you want, and a lot of these, all of the vitamins are water soluble. Vitamin E is fat soluble. What's that mean? It means it breaks down, sticks in the cells longer, which we want. Some of it stays in the liver, which is another topic I should talk about. We don't have anyone else waiting with a question on the chat right now. I'm going to read a question I had from a woman. Let me see if I can pull it up without ruining my stream here. Let's see if I can do it. I'm so sure that I can. Let's see what she said. She said, it was a good question. So I just ordered Moss probiotics for the first time, and I'm going to rotate them, my probiotics. On the bottle it says potent. Is it stronger than other probiotics, and can it cause any problems? It has 25,000 CFUs, the same amount as my other, only different strains. I'll make sure I read that right. Others than only, it has different strains. Well, that's why you're going to rotate, because you want some different strains. But we have to remember that even though both bottles might say Lactobacillus acidophilus or bifidus, they're not all the same. Even though they have the same name, they're bred and different by different people. There are, especially in Europe, there are multi-generational companies or family businesses that have cultivated strains of bacteria for centuries. And a lot of it was just for bread baking, but there are companies that have been making, like Natriv, I think, is one probiotic that they've been making literally probiotics for a couple hundred years, anyways, maybe longer. Family recipe, and they make the probiotic, and their probiotic is going to be different than the neighbor who's been making it for 200 years, also with the same strains. So when you're rotating probiotic, the idea is that every probiotic has something it specializes in. And so when you're taking one all the time, the same one, you're just getting that specialty. Okay, when you rotate them, you say, well, especially if you have conditions that I don't treat, like SIBO, Candida, things like that. I wouldn't touch those with a 10-foot pole. And talk about getting involved in quagmire. You have to really be smart to deal with that. And what you do is you need to rotate your probiotics. Now, it just brings up another sidebar, is that the medical doctor is going to tell you, no, don't take probiotics, because if you have SIBO, you have an overgrowth of bacteria in the small bowel, and but they don't get it. That the bacteria is lack of the beneficial bacteria is the problem, just like our tomato plants. When you don't have the good soil, when you don't have the mucosal lining with all the immune functions that a good healthy soil with the yogurts and that you blend. If you blend the yogurts, there's one called what's that one out of Europe that everybody's taking? I forget it. It's like a super yogurt. If you blend things, you're going to get more results. So when you rotate them, you're going to get a little bit different blend of the benefits. You have SIBO, and they're telling you not to. So this is what they're going to do. They're going to give you an antibiotic for SIBO. Okay, let's kill off the bacteria. Good idea, right? But they're going to then tell you don't take any probiotics. Why? Because it's bacteria. These guys don't realize that there's a gazillion types of bacteria out there, and if you give them the antibiotic, you're going to make the problem worse, because any soil that they have in terms of mucosal lining, you're going to drive it right out of their body, and the weeds are going to take over. That's what Candida and when you talk about SIBO and H. pylori, they're just weeds, and they grow because the soil is weak. So internally, the soil got weakened when you're 2 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, and you took antibiotics. And you'll never make the connection, your doctor won't anyways, between the antibiotic you took when you were 2 and the IBS you have now. So the doctors don't know about that. And if the doctor says, don't eat SIBO, it drives me crazy. I mean, don't take probiotics. It drives me crazy because they're just so wrong. What you have to do is take the antibiotic, and you have to take the antibiotic. I don't know how to fix it without the antibiotic. That's the quickest way. You got an imbalance that was created by antibiotics. You got to take more to get rid of it. You're in this cycle. How do you break it? You slam yourself with probiotics, and you really want to take like this person rotating them. You want to get 2 or 3 brands that have different strains of bacteria, or if it's the same name, they're really going to be different. Throw them in your body and take. Don't worry about CFUs. Most of the companies don't even use that. I don't pay attention. That's just another like milligrams. So let me take another question here, and hopefully I answered that sufficiently. Let's see. Mandy can you take more than one probiotic supplement at a time? Well, yes, we were just talking about that. In certain conditions, it's advantageous. I mean, I know some real probiotic freaks who they're always, blending their own. They have a brew. If you do this, like you take some applesauce and put it in a container and throw some probiotics in there, and say you throw 10,000, by morning there'll be 30,000. It's the sugar feeding them, which is not a legitimate prebiotic. It's like a fertilizer. And a lot of people do that, and they're always dumping different strains in there. They must have the wildest brew of bacterias, because they are, they're doing something that the probiotic companies would never do and don't do. You see like a multivitamin, which are pretty much useless, and you see all kinds of stuff in there. You don't see that with probiotics. You don't see companies mixing a lot of them. You'll see some that have 10, 12 strains. There was a company a few years ago that had 100 strains of bacteria, different strains. I don't know what happened to them. I'm the only one I know that took them. I was always a guinea pig. Colloidal silver comes out, right? They're saying, don't drink it, it's going to turn you blue. That bullshit thing where they had the blue man out there on Merv Griffin. Well, that guy was a freak because he was actually eating silver, shavings. Colloidal silver is a tiny particle. It's silver. Tiny parts per million is really makes it a very diluted product. So, anyways, we're going to prove that it is doesn't turn you blue. And I drank a year's worth of colloidal silver every day for a month. I didn't turn blue. My eyes are blue. I can't remember. Maybe they were brown before, but that's the only thing on me that's blue. So I did that with everything. I don't know if I ever told the story. I'm going to get back to your questions, but a sales rep came in when I had these stores, and they were always throwing stuff at you. So this new wild Chinese herbal thing. I don't know anything about Chinese herbs, and the guy handed it to me and said, look at this, all the Chinese herbs in there. I said, I don't have any idea what they do. He's trying to tell me something about the qi and the all the stuff of the Chinese energetic medicines and stuff. So I said, okay, cool. It looked like a bottle of Coke, with a Chinese label on it. And he had to go up to his car and get something else to try to sell me. And I just drank it. He was freaked out. He says, where's the stuff? I go, I drank it. He goes, you drank the whole thing? I said, yeah, why? He says, oh, you're only supposed to take like a dropper full. It's like an eyedropper that comes with that. He said, you drank like a decade's worth in one shot. So I said, well, let's see what happens. I said, I'm Mr. Guinea Pig, and I was on a wild ride for quite a while. I was high on whatever it was in there, and I remember I had stopped sleeping for at one point. And just to tell you an interesting thing, and we're going to get back to the questions. I started doing TM, Transcendental Meditation, and there was this big thing in Washington, D.C. where they, got more money out of you, basically. But they taught you these advanced techniques. Supposedly you could dematerialize, and you could hover off of the ground, for 3 or 4 seconds, and then you'd fall back down, and, all kinds of what they call yogic powers. Now, I was into it, so I went down there, and they had you, like, on special diets and, kind of manipulating you in a way. And I had a roommate, and guy shows up. The guy's got a bag full of like maybe 100 tubes of toothpaste in there. He shows it to me. I said, "What are you doing, man?" He goes, "I brush my teeth with a different toothpaste every day." So I was talking to him about probiotics on the gums and the teeth. So anyways, to finish it up, it might be boring you. They had us down in a room every day, and we'd do special mantras and breathing exercises. And the idea we were going to all levitate. So, I'm down there like, what bullshit this is. But I still was into it. I wanted it to happen. So I'm in the back of the room, maybe my back to a wall, and maybe 100 people in the room. So they say, close your eyes, say this mantra. Maybe anyone else has done TM advanced techniques that did this. So I'm like, okay, saying the mantra, and you switch and they guide you and they say, okay, now say this mantra. Don't open your eyes. Don't open your eyes. You ruin the connection to the infinite. So I'm hearing all kinds of like people kind of like moaning and screaming and like, laughing and wild noises. So I just said, F it. I said, I got to see what's going on. If I don't levitate, I don't levitate. So I see these people hovering around, and honestly, I saw it. I saw people go up about 2 feet off the ground, come back down, and saw some people kind of accelerate 2 feet forward. Well, I said, well, I'd never seen anything like that. I closed my eyes again, tried to catch up to the crowd, and I felt like a little bit of something touched the back of my head, and then I landed on a guy in front of me. I don't know what I did. I think I levitated. I didn't see it. I had my eyes closed. All I know is I landed on a guy. So I don't know how I got off on that subject. Oh, it was the Chinese herbs. So a combination of those two things, which happened within a few weeks, I stopped sleeping. And I still, to this day, I sleep an hour or two a night. It's more like a nap. So let's just see what Sandy S. has to say. Sandy S., I've had surgery for Crohn's a long time ago. And since then, I've had sensitivity on my right side with surgery, where the surgery was done. I'm on the protocol a year now. Should my symptoms resolve just like any other? Well, yes. I don't know, Sandy, how frequently we talked. I'm going to just pretend that we haven't talked a lot, because I don't remember. Sandy. What should happen is you and I should stay in regular contact, weekly, every 2 weeks, at least once a month. And under those circumstances, with my guidance, I'd be giving you some herbs like slippery elm. I would be using some fatty acids. You might have some scar tissue in there that's putting pressure on other tissue around it. The scar tissue itself wouldn't be sensitive, but it tends to pull, tighten, makes the skin tighter and not as flexible. And so that could be a problem. Is that I'm not saying you haven't. I'm saying that if you haven't stayed in touch with me, you should, because the longer you go without getting that fixed, it's going to technically become more, probably become more sensitive. So let's just see what you said again. It was a long time ago. And you still got sensitivity. Yes, I would have some herbs I would be telling you what to take that are like one of them's hops. It smells terrible. I'm trying to remember. I get my chops going from my health food store days. If you ever really want to become an expert in nutrition and what's important, work in the health food store, because you're on the front lines. People saying, "Hey, my ass hurts. What are you going to do? I'm standing 2 feet away from you, staring you in the face. What are you going to do?" You have to think quick, and I got much more out of that experience. I had 4 stores. I was bouncing around like a wild man. I knew everything. I don't know as much as I did then. So, Sandy, I recommend you contact me directly and tell me the story, and we would probably prescribe you some hops. I'm trying to think of the other herbs. I'll know them by the time we talk. But yes, we would think if they had proper care, the sensitivity would be gone. Tammy, if ascorbic acid isn't a safe form of vitamin C for us to take, which form is? Now, you always ask the questions that make it tough on me. Let's see if I can remember the name of it. Ascorbyl palmitate. P-A-L-M like palm, atate. Ascorbyl. I don't know. I'd probably have to Google it. I haven't thought about that, what it looks like. A-S-C-O-R-B-Y-L. Palmitate, P-A-L-M-I-T-A-T-E. Then there was another fancy one too, that Natrol. Google Natrol vitamin C. water-soluble vitamin C. That's what I remember about it, and I remember exactly what the bottle looked like, and it was the hot thing. Ester C, there you go, Ester C. They clicked in, Ester C, Esther. That's a water-soluble vitamin C, if I'm remembering right. And I don't know of any other. I don't know if that's technically a scopolamine or not, but I know Ester C, whatever it is the best because it's not acidic and it's water soluble, which means that you won't pee it all out right away. Take some vitamin C and see what happens next time you urinate, but it won't happen with the Ester C. So let's see. Sandy now comes back and asks, "Well, Serrapeptase." Oh, I'm taking Serrapeptase for a while. Serrapeptase is made by silkworms. Imagine that, made by silkworms. How did anyone take those? It's like this. I was going to answer this. I'm going to answer your question now. Then it leads me to something called oscillococcinum, a homeopathic remedy. Talk about obscure. The big reveal. I'm Ruth Smeltzer. Oh, good. Ruth, you have a nice alias, a.k.a. The Serrapeptase, it supposedly can cut through scar tissue real good. I don't know how good because why? It takes forever to do that anyways. I mean, I've tried to get scar tissue off of, various issues with narrowing of the ileum, terminal ileum, and it takes forever. It does work. How do I know it works? Because over the long haul, you see them eliminate easier. But it's not easy. It's not easy. It takes a while, and you just have to have faith. Kyra wrote ascorbylpalmitate, ASCORBYLPALMITATE. Yes, ascorbylpalmitate. I don't know if that's what Ester C is. I mean, I'm out of that realm. I haven't been in that realm for a while. So let's see what else we have here. Sandy is her second name. I didn't know you had a second name. Okay, talk about obscure things like silkworms. If you never want to get sick again, here we go. We're not there yet. We're not rush it, but when it comes to the colder weather, you want to have these two things around your house, and you'll never get sick with a cold or flu. Now, you're going to have to phonetically transfer it over to over to Googling it, but there's something called the flu remedy. I'm not sure if we just call that in our stores or it's oscillococcinum. A lot of you heard of it. It's the flu remedy. And what is that actually? It's a homeopathic remedy. It works unbelievably. It is the extract from the heart of a duck. That threw me. When I saw that many years ago, I said, what? But that's what homeopathy does. They had people for years would just do anything. They'd snort, spider webs. I mean, their mission was to find out every substance on the planet, what does it do? A lot of people died doing that. They were getting paid. They were poor. They said, I'll be the guinea pig. Maybe I would have done that back in the day, but oscillococcinum. I'm going to guess. I could Google it, but I'll let you do it. OSCILOOCUM, something like that. Oscillococcinum. You'll never get the flu. If you take that, the minute you sense the beginning of any flu symptom, you won't get the flu. You only take it once. It won't help you if you already have the flu. It comes in a little tube, little pellets. It's a homeopathic remedy, and they put the little extract in a little balls, and they're made out of sugar pills, but sugar balls, and that and colloidal silver. Colloidal silver, what an amazing substance. It'll knock out any cold, bacterial infections, even things like warts. If you have poison ivy and you rub it in wherever you have the poison ivy, it'll be gone the next day. Warts just fall right off. But as far as getting sick, Kira, OSCILOCOCCINUM, oscillococcinum. You want that everywhere you go, in the glove compartment of the car. in the house, in your bedroom, anywhere where you might see the first signs. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. It really is. It's been probably 30 years. I'll conservatively say 20 years since I've had anything with the flu. I don't get any flu shots. I mean, I'm not against vaccines, but I don't need it. And everyone I know is the same way. My daughter is having that in the colloidal silver present. So you want it in the glove compartment of your car. You want it anywhere you go at work. First signs, sniffle, boom. Take a swig of the colloidal silver, and put a tube of the oscillococcinum under your tongue, and you'll never get sick with those two things. I want to talk about the silver for a minute. Someone asked a while ago of Geographic Tongue. You ever heard of that? It's when you have risen bumps and little patterns on your tongue. Looks like these crop circles. If you have that, that's a just a mucosal lining imbalance. Your tongue has the bacterial mucosal lining on it too, and you can get if you have antibiotics, it can affect you there, and then you get different strains of bacteria and different molds and things grow there, and they inflame the tissue, and it looks like little mountains can be. It's not high, but they look like little geographic peaks and valleys. What do you do? Here's one of my favorite things. You rotate it with colloidal silver. Gargle with it. Straight, get a bunch of it. Put it in your mouth, enough to gargle with, and you swish around your mouth, give it a good minute, swallow it. Do that 2 or 3 times a day. What's that going to do? It's going to kill off the bad guys. And then what do you do maybe an hour later? And do it in this order. You do the silver first, and then you do the probiotic, only because it's a theory that I don't believe, but people say it can kill off small amounts of the good bacteria. I don't believe it. I never saw it. But do it this way just to be sure. Then you take a bottle of liquid probiotic, which, I love to brag. Liquid probiotic was a nothing supplement. Nobody used that. It was just a nothing. It was a loser. I came along and said, we can use that for a bunch of things. And one of them is you gargle with that after you do the colloidal silver. You put the bacteria back in. And then later on, you discover, wait a minute. If we're going to get benefit out of the probiotic, even if it's liquid, we need colostrum in there. So you shovel some in there. You gargle with it. You do it 2 or 3 times a day, always the silver first, and swallow. And it's not going to do much for your lower GI, but it's for the throat, esophagus, and it's going to, the silver is going to kill off anything that's growing in those areas, and because it kills out virus and bacterial fungus, and you're putting the probiotic in afterwards. So I got some more questions here. So when I have that sensitivity, should I assume that I'm not healed yet? Yes, you're not healed. I mean, when we heal something and we say, wow, I don't have any more symptoms, this is great, when it's inflammatory bowel, it's still going to take years to get 100% solid, not healed, so that when you've had something like traumatized tissue, I'm not sure which person I'm talking to, Sandy or what's her name again? Ruth. I'm Albert. It will take long. If you have sensitivity, that's evidence that it's not totally healed, because that means that there's nerve tissue in there. What I've always told people, another one, I think I say a lot of stuff that no one else has ever said, and I never said I'm modest. Any tissue you have in your body, fingernail, eyelash, earlobe, brain, as long as it's there and there's blood being delivered to it, you can improve upon that thing. Because if you put something in your mouth that's relevant to that thing, it's going to be delivered to that location. And it's going to, when done properly, it's going to enhance that thing. But you need to know what that thing is made out of and what that thing likes. And give you a tip, if you have something in an extremity, okay, I forget the name of it because I'm just not in those health food stores anymore, where the people, and maybe Kara can look this up, Tammy, the condition whereby your fingertips get really, like, unbelievably cold in weather when it's not that cold, when it's just 50 or 55, when it's not freezing, obviously. There's a condition that I forget the name of it, where it gets, this is a perfect example, And some of you out there, I know you have this condition, whereby you take your gloves off, or even put your gloves on, really, what the issue is, and your fingertips are frozen, like they're actually feel like they're frozen. It's painful. What's that about? That's about circulation. And that, because it's an extremity, it's the ends of your fingers, what do? Well, you take, first of all, you take something called ginkgo. Ginkgo is it's an herb, and what's it do? It's an Uber driver. It's a taxi driver. What it does, it brings what you want with it. So if you want something in extremities, say it's that you want to heal a hemorrhoid, you take whatever you need for the hemorrhoid, and you take the ginseng with it. It's famous for healing the brain. There's something called plant signature. A lot of plants are shaped like the body part that they heal. Hawthorn berries look like a little tiny heart. It just so happens they're good for the heart. Okay, the ginkgo leaf is shaped like the lobes of a brain. You could put it right on a picture and say, well, look at those lobes, and the ginkgo is good for the brain. Oh, what's it good for the brain? It delivers the nutrients to the extremities. You want to have a blast. You want to like really feel Raynaud's. Okay, Kara, I owe you a nickel. Raynaud's, Raynauds. Some of you out there have it. How do you know you have it? Your fingertips get really cold when it's not really cold out. What do? You take ginkgo. Another one, a really good one that I found, like cayenne pepper, like in a capsule. Cayenne pepper heats things up. It's not, believe it or not, you give it to people for ulcers, and you think, wow, you're giving that hot stuff. It has the opposite effect. Ginkgo, but magnesium and MSM. Magnesium, what's that do? Relaxes the blood vessels. The issue with Raynaud's is that blood vessels are tightening down. It's like when people have high blood pressure. It's tightening down, and it doesn't allow as much blood to flow through. Here's a tidbit. I learned this from one of my employees at the time, the famous Steve with the Cobra. He told me that he's actually, what was he? He was a PhD from MIT, bio something. So he was a madman. So he told me that it's a circulatory problem where the blood vessels tighten down and oxygen can't get delivered and anywhere in the blood. Anytime, like I'll tie a tight string around our fingertip, and then after a couple minutes, how's that going to feel? It's going to hurt like hell. Anytime blood is not being delivered to a location effectively, you're going to have pain. Because the body says, we need oxygen, number one, and if you don't give it to us, and our knuckles and our fingertips aren't getting it because the vessels, our corpuscles are narrowing down, we're going to scream bloody murder. And the way it does that with Raynaud's is the pain, and you feel as though it's like ice cold when actually it isn't. You feel your tips and say, well, I feel warm, but internally it's narrowing down of the vessels because of lack of magnesium, which is relevant to why we have high blood pressure many times. The lack of magnesium makes things flexible. So when the heart pumps, here comes a flow of blood, and the blood vessels need to be flexible. And if you don't have that flexibility, it's not going to be able to push the blood through. I used to argue with doctors all the time. They said, don't take magnesium. I said, no, wait a minute. There's no toxicity. What would happen if you take too much magnesium? You'd be in the bathroom, having a bowel movement. It pulls water. So let's go back to that. I get rambling on things that probably people don't care about. But you would take ginkgo and magnesium and something like cayenne pepper to get rid of Raynaud's. And I don't know if it'll permanently take care of it. You might have to take it continually while you're having the problem. So Madman's back, Madman 4. Wobenzymes saved my small intestine. Still had to have surgery, some large intestine removed. Dr. Snow helped work wonders. My program worked wonders. Less intestine removed, rapid healing. Madman contacted me a long time ago, and he was in dire straits. he had problem all through his GI tract, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a challenge. And I remember I almost did have to talk him into going with me. He was him and her, and I said, listen, man, I'll commit myself to it, and we'll see what we can do. And we accomplished a lot. He's the only guy. You talk about balls. We're all trying to get a six-pack. I have maybe a one-pack, and I never had a six-pack. And we know what that is. And so I have a couple of relatives that they're young guys, and they always comparing six-packs. They're ramming each other like those rams that are trying to knock each other's six-pack off, I guess. But this guy, Madman, earning his name, he knows what I'm going to say. He's the only person I know that after surgery, with all the stitches in the gut, he posted a picture of his gut with all the stitches post-surgery, pulling his shirt up, and I said, that guy's crazy. He earned the Madman status. Do you remember that, Madman? What's the best time to call me? Sandy said, well, Monday through Friday, 10 to 4:30. You're better off trying to catch me a few minutes before 10 because I will answer, but not after 4:30. And I don't take lunch. Lunch is for wimps, right? So anywhere 10 to 4:30. If you want to talk to me, you might have to, actually talk to me. I have to leave a message. Okay, Kira, you're busy today, Kira. What are we talking about now? Oh, magnesium. Oh, she wrote ginkgo, magnesium, and cayenne pepper. Sounds yummy. We used to put it in people's, when they were working outside, we put cayenne in their socks, and it would keep their feet warmer longer. So the protocol, this is Sandy again, of multiple names, Miss AKA. So the protocol you gave me a year ago should help with this scar tissue, as well as, because I'm pretty sure I mentioned the scar tissue before. I think that's a not so subtle way of saying, why didn't I recommend it before? If that's the case, I felt the things that I prescribed to you would do it. There's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't remember. I'd have to be reminded what I prescribed you. Sometimes I'll do it with MSM. Wobenzyme is in and out in terms of availability. It might go a year or two unavailable. Why? Because it's so effective at so many things that companies are always trying to buy each other out. There's a war over that. If you look at Wobenzyme online, you'll see there's two versions. One has a bunch of enzymes in it, one's just a little short list. Court battles and everything else. Maybe I'm not going to make an excuse. Maybe it wasn't available. I don't know. Maybe I overlooked it. So if that's what you're asking. So there's no more questions at the moment. It gives me an opportunity to ramble on a little bit more. I had a couple of things that I wanted to mention about, okay, the Crabman 71. My protocol helped diverticulitis. Good question, because that doesn't get mentioned much. I've talked about IBS, Colitis, and Crohn's, about how they're the same thing. Well, one condition that irks me is leaky gut, as if it's a separate thing, and we need to have leaky gut groups and leaky gut supplements. No, all leaky gut, if there is such a thing, is that holes been eaten like an ulcer, and the theory is that holes have been eaten right through the wall. If that was the case, you wouldn't be talking about leaky gut. You'd be in the hospital. Diverticulitis, what is it? It's the same thing as IBS, Colitis, Crohn's. The lack of mucosal lining, the acid eating a hole, and in that particular part of the GI, above the belly button, the symptoms are different than below. What happens with diverticulitis, holes are eaten in this like a pocket, and bacteria and waste will get trapped in there. And the only way I know to get rid of it when it's at that stage is antibiotics. And then we hustle right up with our probiotic and colostrum. But it's the same thing as fixing IBS, or same thing as fixing acid reflux. You have a hole being eaten by acid because of lack of mucosal lining, and you treat it just like you would treat IBS, and then you have to feed the diverticulitis the stuff that it's made out of. It's not made out of marshmallows. It's made out of amino acids that builds the skin and the muscle, and fatty acids. And with lower GI stuff, you don't want to take a fatty acid with if you're bleeding with the condition you're treating, you don't want to take the fatty acid right then. But it's funny, you can have the hole up in the area of diverticulitis. It's the same hole as down below, but the geography is different as far as the symptoms. You don't get diarrhea from diverticulitis, and you tend not to bleed. So the way to treat it is the same way we treat IBS, colitis, Crohn's, and I can rattle off what you need to do. The GI cure will take care of it. Probiotic select, colostrum, GI select, and permeability. Those will take care of it. And don't let me forget, someone right here has questions. Don't let me get off until I talk about the liver, fatty liver, and we don't have to worry about it so much more as much because there's a drug for it. But there's a problem with the drug, hepatitis C. I forget what I was saying. I shouldn't jump around like that. Diverticulitis. What's the problem with treating it? People who have diverticulitis, when they get that infection, it's terrible pain. Usually they go to the hospital. They come out with an antibiotic. It's great, feel better. And when I'm treating them, they don't have any pain. They don't have the problem. The problem passed. The thing with diverticulitis, it just comes and goes. You don't know how frequent. So when I'm treating you and you're not having a diverticulitis attack, you can say to me, well, I don't know if it's helped me or not because I might not have had an attack anyways. So first thing we do is look for, can we extend a longer period without it, apparent remission, then typical. That means that our protocol is probably working. All this is different than diverticulosis. Diverticulosis is just when you get to the bottom line, what it is, the bowel wall is getting weak from aging, and you lose things like peristaltic motion. Diverticulitis, there's no way out. If you don't treat it the way I said, there's no other way out. You'll get seeds in there, then you'll be limiting this food, that food. Bite the bullet, have an antibiotic, and do my GI cure protocol. So what do we got over here now? Sandy's right on top of me, man. Sandy is like on top of me. So right now, is there something else I can add to my protocol for scar tissue? I'm taking glutamine, probiotics, Saccharomyces boulardii, and GI Fortify with omega. I'd have to think about it because that's a pretty big question, and if I was with you on the phone, I would probably say to you, let me get back to you on that. Not that I have to research it, I have to think about it. That's not that common, so let me just look at it again. You've taken an anti-inflammatory, which is the omega. GI Fortify, I think I know what's in there. The Saccharomyces boulardii has nothing to do with that. Glutamine, a definite. Probiotics, a definite. Colostrum allows you not lactose intolerant. Somebody said to me, well, where do I get the lactose one? All I know is it's made by proper nutrition, lactose free. And there's a couple of factors in lactose and something else. I'm sure Kara is going to find out what's in proper nutrition and what they left out, what the other, besides the lactose free, there's either casein or some other nutritional factor that's taken out. Sandy, I will put a clip on this YouTube channel where I'll talk about what to do in that case. It might be lumped in with some other things, but within a couple of days you'll see a clip that the title will include, it'll include what you're asking about. However I entitle it, I'll talk about the pain. Some things that just takes me a little bit of time to catch up to when I would normally be asking you kind of rapid fire questions. Let's see. Don't eat toasted sesame seeds or red black pepper flakes for diverticulitis. Well, okay, Kara, I don't know if you've had that problem or not, but little tiny seeds will get in there. The issue is that it gets infected, and then you get to this downward spiral. It's like C. diff. Okay, C. diff is a bacterial overgrowth from the use of antibiotics, and typically you have to be in a place like a hospital. I did a whole series about how unhealthy hospitals are, and they're just like one big colon that's been ravaged by antibiotics. Everything in there is, especially with the COVID, it's the last place you want to be. It's a harvest of germs. It really is, if you're sick. So C. diff, let's give them some antibiotics, okay? It might clear up for an hour, and then you're back with a vengeance. It's worse. Anyone said C. diff. It's a cycle. I don't know how anybody actually. I know plenty of people that have taken it, never took a probiotic, and they got out of it somehow. I don't understand how that happens. If you're pounding yourself with antibiotics and you're not putting probiotics back in, it took a long time. I've had somebody I know recently. It took them about 8 weeks. It kept going and coming and going. That's because when you take the probiotic, you're also removing your localized immune system. That's how valuable these probiotics are, is that they do multiple things. That's why it's a must you get them in you. And a note about colostrum. What I talked about with this person, I said, if you can't find the proper nutrition brand, do this. We dilute things. That's always the answer, dilute it. What's that mean? You take a pinch, a little bit of the powder from a capsule, and you couldn't swallow the whole capsule because you weren't aware that you had some lactose problems, and when you took the colostrum, it's concentrated lactose in there, and it made you sick. So what do? We take a tiny amount, just a pinch, and we put it in some water. And if you put like 16-ounce glass of water, and you put just a little bit of like a pinch of the colostrum, it's going to get diluted and dispersed. It's still in there, and you drink that, and it's going to adhere to the lining of your GI tract, and then the probiotic will adhere to that. I don't know how many people know that you have to take colostrum with a probiotic or it's not going to work. And don't talk to me about Saccharomyces boulardii because it's really a different use of the term. Saccharomyces boulardii is not a bacteria, it's a probiotic, but it's a yeast. And yeast doesn't need a colostrum to cling on because it's not really residential. It's a day worker. It comes in, helps form the stool. We do need a little bit of it growing in it, so I won't say it's not residential, but you need to take the probiotic with colostrum so it becomes residential. Jordan Rubin, he's the guy, what's it called, Garden of Life. Before he had that company, you might have read his book. He was really ill. I think he was down in the 60s of pounds, might have been the 70s. And he writes in his book how he went around the world, try to find the answer what was wrong with my son. He's dying. His father came into my store. One night I was there after hours, and he came in and asked me my opinion because he'd seen me publish in some magazines. What should we do? I said, what I tell everybody, the probiotic and the colostrum. Talked for a while, real nice guy. I said, have him come in. He said, no, he can't even walk. This is after they went to Germany and Australia and Greece and everywhere else. I said, yeah, it's pretty simple for me to say, routine, right? I never heard from him again, but I did see that he came roaring back quite a while ago now, 20 plus years. He, as healthy as he got, he still doesn't distribute the products that I told him to take. I have no question he's helping people. But if you don't take a colostrum, don't take probiotic with colostrum. Excuse me, too much talking. If you don't take colostrum with the probiotic, it's not going to work. I don't care what probiotic you take. So it goes down the toilet. Now, I haven't seen any toilets with IBS, colitis, or Crohn's in quite a while because they're getting all the good stuff. So this one thing I wanted to promote, the GI cure. That's what separates it from everything. We don't care about the stuff these other guys care about. We don't care about how many CFUs, excuse me, of the probiotic. We don't even care really what colostrum you take. Tegracell is the best. If it says Tegracell on the label, that's the best. That's the one I promote. We just need to do the fundamentals. And this is something I went off on the other day. People, why are you not doing the effing program? It just amazes me. And people will call me up and say, well, I'm still not better. I'm mad at you. And I'll say, what are you taking? And they're not taking anything I prescribe. They're taking a probiotic they get from their uncle's friend who's in some kind of program that, or they call it multi-level companies, and they sell detergent and then probiotics. And, I just have to go off on that once in a while because it irks me because someone reamed my ass yesterday about that. Sandy is just pounding the hell out of me today. I don't know if you heard about EMS. Yeah. Okay, you're going to get mad at me, Sandy? Should I tell you how I feel about it? The same way I feel about all those energetic things. They have benefits, but not for gastrointestinal problems that we talk about here. You know, you're a pro athlete. You want to make sure your muscles are ready for the next game and get that stuff. Kinesiology, another bullshit one. Kinesiology. Let's take a bottle of vitamin C, hold it to our chest, and then test your arm by pressing down on your arm. Bullshit. Let me tell you something. I've been in this industry more than almost anybody. And also, I was way more aggressive in experimenting with everything. Everything. You name something in the industry, I was doing stuff all day that the rest of the industry didn't even know about. I'm in there hanging out with a kinesiologist saying, come on, show me something, man. And matter of fact, the guy who worked for me, I'll tell you a funny thing. His job, he was working for me, so I guess he took his job, is that Steve, he took his job as, you're supposed to sell stuff. So I said, okay, sell stuff. I don't care, sell stuff. He used to take out his pendulum. People used to bring vitamins up to the counter. He has pendulum, which is like a kinesiology. And if it's spun left or right, it was like left was yes, right was no. So they bring up some vitamins to the counter. Steve was by the cash register. He'd pull his pendulum out. And, all the years he worked for me, I never saw it saying no yet. People used to stack his stuff. He'd be taking his pendulum. Yes, 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 yes. It was amazing. It's bullshit for what your condition is. And I know she's going to get back to me because I know Sandy, who she is. She's not going to let it go, but it's bullshit. What else do we have here? I don't know if you heard about EMS. I didn't read the rest of the sentence. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Slim wave, they call it, can help get rid of stubborn belly fat. Now, are you telling me that, Sandy? Okay. I should get some of that. Could that be contraindicated with Crohn's? No. Okay, what degree burn is diverticulitis? Wow. Tammy, we're going to have to ban you. You're going to have to ban you. Always ask the tough questions. I know you're giggling right now, saying, I got him, I'm going to pin him down. If you say it goes IBS, then UC, then Crohn's, can any of us have, with IBS, UC or Crohn's, can you get diverticulitis as well? Absolutely. There's just a long muscle, long muscle from your mouth all the way down to your rectum. It's all connected. It's one highway, and you can get a pothole in one part of the highway, a mile down another pothole. We don't call them different names. They're called by conventional medicine diverticulitis. What is it? A lack of mucosal lining allowing the acid to penetrate that area and eat a hole just like it does in any other part of your GI tract. And someone's going to say, why? How does it pick a left side, right side, up or down? It's random. It's based on how the antibiotic treated you. Why are most problems when you take an antibiotic relevant to the GI tract? Because that's where the pill lands. Here comes the probiotic, the antibiotic, boom, sits there and it's going to spill out and destroy the good bacteria in that location. Okay, let's see here. Dahlia, we got Crabman too. We might run a little late today. That's fine with me. Let's see, Dahlia, hi Dr. Snow, would serum-derived bovine immunoglobulin powder, Moss has one, be a good replacement for colostrum if I'm sensitive to dairy? Yes, and it's something I've neglected to talk about and even neglected to prescribe. One reason is because those products were going on and off the market. I forget the name of the original one. It used egg yolk as part of the ingredient. Somebody might. Okay, Kara, here's a challenge for you. Try to find the peptide product that had egg yolk in it. I can't remember the name. There's two different ones, a red and a black. I didn't give enough information. Egg yolk, what else was in there? The peptides. Yes, and a lot of the conventional medical doctors are selling it because the companies that manufacture that are targeting medical doctors to increase their business. I want to see what else you wrote about. Moss has one. As a matter of fact, because of you, Delia, I'm going to start prescribing more of it because it's kind of like transfer factors. There's something really cool about it, but it's not the cure-all. And the people who are selling it are usually, multi-level marketing. They're telling it's good for everything. Well, it's really good. But I like my Tegracell colostrum. I'm old school. The new school is what you're talking about, Dahlia. Let me say it again. From Moss Nutrition, it's the serum-derived bovine immunoglobulin powder. The answer is yes, and I'm glad you brought it up because it was neglected by me. Or would you recommend trying goat colostrum? Well, goat's milk is closer to human's milk. I'm not sure about the colostrum. Probably is easy to digest. I'd go for the immuno. I'd go for the immuno because that's cutting edge. Cutting edge, it really is. I should be on that more. So I hope I didn't skip your question. I'm seeing I skipped your question. Crabman, 71. I've taken many antibiotics for chronic sinusitis and believe that's what sets off my colitis. Can protocol help sinusitis? I'm going to do a clip, audio on that subject, but I'll answer it now, and they'll be in short form. Here's what I was going to even talk about today, so thank you, Crabman. All of the sinus, the lungs, gastrointestinal tract, bladder, vaginal, prostate, those are all called mucous membranes. The membrane means a wall of skin, fat, and muscle, and the mucosal lining, mucous membrane, mucosal lining, is the bacteria that lives there, protects it. We talk about that with IBS and such all the time. Well, the rules are identical for the sinuses and the lungs because they are the same thing. They breathe something in or they take something in, like the bladder, and they have to process it. Process it with what? Acids, digestive acids or histamines. So in your sinuses, you're lacking the mucosal lining, and what happens is that when you don't have the mucosal lining, that means you don't have a localized immune system, and you don't have a wall or barrier protecting against the histamines that are being released to help. Digestive acids is what they are, and they're hitting directly the sinus wall because there's no barrier there. This is actually the most sophisticated thing I've ever had to learn in my medical history, was how to explain this, and without boring people to death. Lack of mucosal lining, same thing as in the IBS. Colostrum, probiotic, and I'll give you a tip. For sinus problems, use green tea. Get an extract and snort it. Put it in one of those little bottles they have at CVS. Tammy will know the name of those little goofy things you put in your sinus. I think they sell them for $1. Do that in colloidal silver. Rotate that just in case you have an infection. And probiotic, do the same thing as the GI Cure, except for you don't need the heavy-duty things like GI Select. So there would be, let me be more sophisticated in answering it. Probiotic and colostrum, green tea, and colloidal silver. If you want more information, ask me to do a audio clip on it during the week. Okay, here she comes. Dahlia has got us the proper nutrition. 70-40 is dairy-free, and the one he recommends for us. Yeah, proper nutrition, 70-40. They make some other good stuff that kind of obscure, and I was always afraid they were going to go out of business. I've been opting recently to just dilute the colostrum because I never knew the availability. Dr. Snow skipped both my questions. Did I answer them yet? Crabman, I've taken antibiotics. Yes, I answered that one. Sandy is just relentless here, bombing me. Not sure you understand. Probably not. I'm looking to lose stubborn belly fat. Yes, I did see that, and I did not answer it. That's what I'm doing. Just want to know if it can hurt me in regards to my Crohn's. No, it can't. I don't believe it has any significant properties that can hurt anybody under any conditions. I also don't think it'll help. As far as belly fat, I'm going to just say I don't know. So I'm not going to pretend I know about that. Let's see what else we got here. Sandy said thank you. And Dahlia. And Yes, no, listen, Tammy, Tammy, you blew my mind. People who have, I didn't think this was available anymore. Maybe it is. Ask Tammy, tell us if it's available. IGY Max. IGY Max. That's the original one of that category, the peptide type products. What a battle that was. A legal battle over that. That was off the market for a lot of years because they were fighting over it. It was going to be the supplement of the future. In the meantime, while they were battling over it, these other companies came up with these globulin products. Moss makes one of the best ones. At the time I looked at it, I get out of vogue. I just get on the loop. As a matter of fact, Mandy, look into those peptide globulins ones if you don't have it. I think you already have one of the Moss ones. Mandy's my friend. She's got a child that needs to finish off the healing. Down to the wire here. IG Max, wow. Let's see. Kira, she's in salt water, neti pot. Yes, but you got to put the Probac and the colostrum in there, and you could use an neti pot to do that. Sandy, man, I tell you, you're getting your money's worth today. Good questions. What do I think about ashwagandha? That's Ayurvedic. I know quite a bit about Ayurvedic medicine. I'm not an Ayurvedic doctor. It's a pretty wild subject. That deals with influences, not so much nutrition. It has energetic, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. I don't believe I remember that. Ashwagandha, I never use it because I never really knew what it could do. It's helps with a lot of female type issues with the female issues like PMS or fibroids. Supposedly someone just on maybe the Facebook page said they were using it for something to do with pain. The thing about Ayurvedic medicine, when you look up their herbs, they say they do everything. They say they do everything across the board. Ayurvedic medicine has a problem, though. Fantastic. A lot of my patients are Indian. They go to India and they get a little bit better with the Ayurvedic medicine, but it never finishes it up because Ayurveda was created perhaps millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, and there was no such thing as antibiotics. So they didn't run into IBS. And so they, Chinese medicine is wonderful. I'm going to get all the Chinese medicine mad at me. You're not going to fix Crohn's with IBS. I know they're going to say they can. You're not, unless you're doing my protocol and calling it Chinese. Okay? Tammy said IGY Max is the bomb. I don't know if you knew about that. And Mandy says IGY Max is available. I prescribed it for the son. Oh, I did? Under the same name? Huh. Okay. Do you know why Ammonium says not to take it for more than 2 days? Yeah, it's going to constipate you. They don't know this. Okay, here's a case of me knowing more about the product than the company that makes it. All right, the reason I would tell you not to, or not take enough to lock you down. Here's the problem: if you get constipated with it, and this is another thing no one else ever said. This is the kind of thing that's going to be said in the knowledge base that we're building along with the 195 Club. I call it 195 Club. The people who are going to take the GI Cure protocol for $195. Along with that, you're getting this knowledge base. And here's the kind of thing that I should only be saying in secret because it's sacred information that you really need to go to the knowledge base to find out. Here's why. Inside information that I'm the only one that knows it until now. You don't want to lock your bowels up like that. Obviously, you'll be uncomfortable, but you're eating 3 meals a day. And you're releasing acid 3 times a day. It's supposed to leave your body 3 times a day. If you have any lack of mucosal lining and you're not going to the bathroom but still eating, that's 5, 10, 15, 20 times the acid's going to be in there. I don't know what their reasoning is other than you get constipated. And as soon as you stop taking it and drink some water, you'll be unconstipated. I was going to talk about that today with maybe say a few different things about it, but it's useful as part of a treatment. I told somebody today, get some Ammonium. Same thing with milk and magnesia for the opposite problem. But that's the deal. You don't want, like someone says, I have IBS-C. You don't want C, because that means you're constipated and you're not eliminating the acid. I'm more worried about the acid not being delivered than the rest of the waste. A thing I want to squeeze in before I we close up. We're still going to go on as long as this question's coming in. You don't want to have like acid reflux. Just stop. All of a sudden, I have no pain. That's wonderful. Where did it go? Say you're not doing anything, you're not doing the proton inhibitors, you're just living with it. You don't want it to stop. That means you likely have scar tissue that's covered up the area that's being burnt. And the acidity will just start eating holes in other part of your GI tract. That's called GERD. And from GERD, you go to Barrett syndrome. You want to hear about Barrett syndrome? Google it. It's not good news. You want to nip it in the bud. And if you find you just go silent, no pain, not necessarily good. Okay, Jennifer is here. She's in the house. Tammy Lynn, I got diverticulitis after first large Crohn's flare. Had a CT in January and colonoscopy in February. No diverticulosis. CT in April showed diverticulosis. Then in May, wham, diverticulitis. Well, you didn't know me soon enough, Jennifer. What if you take Ammonium? Does that make it worse because your body can't flush out? There you go. Flush out the acid and it's habit forming. Yeah, because you're not doing the right thing. Like milk of magnesia. Let's take milk of magnesia. Go. Sure. But you got to take some fiber. Here's what you got to do if you're constipated. Instead of effing around, taking some magnesium capsules like I always gave, saying, well, take more, take a week, get some milk of magnesia, throw some down, and wait for the eruption. Blow your butt out, go in the bathroom, like a man, like a woman, have 5 or 6 bowel movements that are going to be mostly water, because that's what magnesium does, it pulls water in. But you're going to come out of the bathroom saying, I feel so good, my headaches, my everything gone. If you don't do part 2, you're going to go right back to needing milk of magnesia. The bowel muscles need to be strengthened. It's always milk of magnesia or magnesium. Soften the stool, take some fiber, like a snowplow, push it out. Fiber does not actually push waste. It pushes the muscles. And so when you take fiber, the body, to get rid of it, because the body doesn't look at fiber as having any value. It doesn't have any vitamins or anything. So it says, we got to get you out of here. It moves it along, but in doing so, the bowel has to move in this perfect motion. It doesn't just slide through. And if you take the right kind of fiber, like flax fiber, moss has it, it's not sharp. So when someone says, why do you got me on a low fiber diet and you give me fiber? Well, the low fiber diet is because dietary fiber is unreliable. You're not going to chew it well enough to really, you think you are. Fletcher eyes. Remember Fletcher eyes? Look that one up too, Tammy, Kara. Tell us what it is when you find it. And if you take the milk of magnesia and start going without following up with the fiber, you're not going to get anywhere because you have to strengthen those muscles. And thing I've just come to do more and more is stop screwing around with the tablets in the beginning, blow it out with the milk of magnesia. Then once you're straight, you start taking the magnesium tablets, and you find out how much is needed to keep the ball rolling. Some of you, genetic, is that you don't have the ability to process magnesium properly. Magnesium is supposed to go through the blood, the wall of the stomach into the bloodstream, pulls water, magnesium, and it pulls it into the stool, the bowel keeps the stool soft. What else does it do? Remember I said with the blood vessel, keeps things smooth, soft, flexible. The bowel muscles, that peristaltic motion. How about this? You have a magnesium deficiency, your shoulders are going to be tight. Another magnesium deficiency is grinding the teeth and sensitive to noises. Hypersensitive, someone just makes a kind of a normal noise and you jump. Okay? Covering a lot of territory in a short time here. Daiwa, D-A-I-W-A, has a product called Gastro Health. That's I guess it's the peptide type product we're talking about with the egg yolk. Ashwagandha is good for stress and anxiety. Tammy, you're busy. You got those fingers flowing. Hope you're not at work. Jennifer Thompson, yes, Dr. Snow. Unfortunately, I didn't find you soon enough, but glad at least I finally have. Yes, hallelujah. And is there a case where Pepto-Bismol is better than Ammonium? Great question. I don't know. I don't know. I've started recommending Pepto-Bismol more. It seems like, I'm going to say yes. I change my mind a lot, don't I? Pepto-Bismol helps more with some things that Ammonium doesn't. Pepto-Bismol is more, you see that obnoxious commercials where they talk about diarrhea, little song they sing. It helps more with nausea and general upset, what they used to call dyspepsia. Dyspepsia is just like a sour stomach. Pepto-Bismol, Ammonium doesn't do that. They might say it does. You're better off using Alka-Seltzer, or another one. Someone in the older crowd will know this. Any old people will know how old you are if you know about Brioski. I think Tammy said something about that last week. Brioski, old-fashioned. What's it do? It balances the pH, good for acid reflux. The Alka-Seltzer and milk and magnesia are just natural products. They are what they used to use before we needed more, like proton pump inhibitors, because we wiped out all our bacteria. What else we got here? We're going to be here all night. One more question for Dr. Snow. This is Dahlia. Since I have shellfish allergies, would GI Fortify be a good sensitive alternative for GI Select, impermeability Select? Yes. Yes, you want things that contain like glutamine and I forget what else is in the GI Fortify, but I know I've prescribed it. A lot of these companies, they're kind of old school, and they're still selling stuff from the 50s and 60s. Got like shellfish extract. It's good for I think it's glucosamine and some other things that are kind of hard to get. They used to use horses' hoofs to make gelatin, and gelatin is really glucosamine. So people have allergies to that shellfish. So I'm always having people say, I can't have this. Can I return it to the company or whatever? Because it has shellfish. And maybe I should always remember to ask. I think we've answered all the questions. Did I skip anybody? I'm going to talk again for another minute. So if I skipped you, have another question. We've got about a minute to go before I have to take off. I got sitting here with my Speedo on, and I have to go for I'm going to go do some powerlifting. Powerlifting is my favorite activity, and that and bowling. One more question, Dr. Snow. Dahlia. Oh, no, she already asked me. I already answered that one. Okay, now, what did I want to talk about here? I want to talk about this celiac issue that has come up quite a bit. If you didn't have a problem with, first of all, if you don't have a problem, there's a woman today asked about her husband. He was diagnosed with celiac. So I said, well, does he have celiac symptoms of not digesting it? No, doesn't have any digestive issues at all. So, well, how the heck did he get hooked up with a doctor to test for celiac? We never figured that. She says, I don't know. Celiac is a genetic condition that's pretty rare. You can't digest the gluten. It's not just wheat, there's gluten and other things. And how do you know if you have celiac? Really, you had to have had that problem your whole life. You come out of the womb with that problem. You would have had to known. You wouldn't be any doubt. If you're thinking you have celiac and you're not sure, then you don't have it. You would have had it from birth. It would be significant enough to say there's definitely something wrong here. But say you can't, you're 40, all of a sudden you can't digest gluten. Doesn't mean you got celiac all of a sudden. You can't just get it. It comes down to digestion in the software in the gut. Every food has a code, okay? Based on carbohydrate, is it fat, is it protein? Most foods are just one. They have a code. And the stomach, software in the stomach recognizes, oh, you're protein. So most foods are simple foods. They're just a carbohydrate or whatever. The soy to a lesser degree, but dairy and wheat are they're complex foods. They have all three food groups in one food. If your software has been altered through the use of antibiotics, that means it's not going to pick up the code of those foods, and you're not going to be able to digest them because you're not going to be able to send a message over to the hardware. All stuff you haven't ever heard anybody say before, by the way. That's why they don't fix it. And then the perioral cells can't release the right acids for that food. Then you'll have an allergy, and they'll say, hey, you're celiac, or you're lactose intolerant. Well, wait a minute, were you that way 10 years ago? No. That means you took antibiotics that wiped out or altered your mucosal lining, your software. So, any tests to find the cause of chronic diarrhea? No. I mean, you don't need to. You need a test maybe for C. diff. If it's not going away with anything I recommend, and you're in the bathroom constantly, you want to get tested for C. diff. If it's just regular, diarrhea like every day, but you're not like totally in the bathroom with your bowel turned inside out, then you don't have it. You don't need a test. Carrot baking soda for stomach acid. I think we covered it today. That's it. Before you sneak a few more questions in, I gotta go do my powerlifting. You should see it in my my Speedo, and everyone always tells me it's too small, 2 sizes too small. But anyways, I'll be back Friday with another question and answer session. Today was very good. Hit me with some difficult ones. And check this YouTube channel every day, because I am putting out a lot of content about all the subjects that I don't normally get to talk about. And we're going to cover everything. One of my favorite ones is the anatomy of the GI cure protocol. It's fascinating when you hear the whole story and how I discovered it. Also, that's available on the YouTube channel. I've got a radio station to myself now, 24 hours. And Tammy, I believe, has made available, I don't know if she's made available on it here, if she could, but within the Twinkies Facebook group, the radio station. And I'm starting a podcast as of today, a regular podcast that will be sent out to all the typical outlets. But my favorite thing is the, which I'm really dedicating myself to, is the knowledge base. You go to the Holistic Gastroenterology, holisticgastroenterology.com website. That's where you can buy into the $195 protocol. Instead of having an appointment with me for $295, you can do it for $100 cheaper. And I should let everybody know, because we had a problem with somebody mad at me yesterday. With the $295, you get unlimited access to me. With the $195, you get a protocol that's all there for you to follow. But if you need my attention, you got to pay $45 for it. In case anybody didn't know that, this person was mad at me, and I think we straightened it out. But it's the knowledge base. Isn't it? It's like a miracle, and it's invaluable if you get your Crohn's or whatever fixed. I mean, that's amazing. But we're offering something that's really is equally valuable, in some ways more so, with this knowledge base. Knowledge base is where I jam in every bit of information I know. I think if you heard the whole question and answer session today, you realize that I get a lot of knowledge, and my daughter says, well, why hoard it? So we're cramming that in, and there's a lot of stuff on there that you have to join the 195 Club to have access to. And when you go on the YouTube channel, you're going to see some things they'll say banned, so to speak. It's going to say only is available if you're a member. I would do it. You're going to get a protocol that would benefit you, and you'll have it for any other family member. There's not going to ever be a new and improved. The protocol I'm offering now will not need to be new and improved. It's perfect as it is. So you'll have that in your possession. You say, wow, I got this in my back pocket. My boyfriend, my whoever has this, here you go. As well as the knowledge base. You get that for free. And I have a woman who, she was a professor of marketing in some major university. And she said, you got to put that stuff in a book. You can sell that book for $200 or $300. And I might someday. But for right now, it's being put in the knowledge base. You'll be able to go in there and say, what I want to know about. You'll be able to search and find for it. It's just not quite available yet. So if you buy into the 195, already bought into it, it's coming. You're going to get the knowledge base. I just been creating a lot of content, and it needs to be put in a form where it's in like an audio file, and you'll be able to not read it, you'll be able to listen to it. So that's that for now. I would sign up for that. It's the deal of the century, and I can promise you it's going to go up the price at some point. Just like if you want to make an appointment with me, talk to me, you better make an appointment soon. $295 is way too shallow of a price, too low. It's going to go up some, and along with that, someday, I'm not going to do it soon, someday the price with the $195 will probably go up. I'm not going to do it for a while, talking a couple years down the road. But anyways, we have another question here. No, we don't. Jennifer just said, thank you. Well, you're welcome. So I'm going to sign off now. I'll be back Friday, but also check in to the radio station. Tammy's going to put that up available, and check here for audio clips, quick hitters, and I'll let you know